So it seems like we have a pretty new update on the whole Sinder situation. Now, I've actually cut this video in between a lot of us breaking down the original Sinder document, right? Because I feel like this is some pretty important stuff to cover. So essentially, if you guys didn't know, Sinder dropped a 1,000-page Google Doc talking about the entire situation and her side of it and redacted side of it. And we've been kind of picking at it for the past couple of days now and going through each of the sections because it's a very long Google Doc. Like, let's be real. And obviously, we are down to the last 3 pages with 3 of the people that weren't so involved but commented on the situation, and Sinder obviously had some things to say about them. Now, obviously, we will be covering those ones tomorrow, don't worry, but it seems like Nanoless, one of the original people and one of the first people mentioned in this document who started up this entire thing with her Google Doc talking about her experience with Sinder, has actually replied to, obviously what has been going on with the Google Doc. Now, the Nanoless section was how many pages? 214. We've got an entire video on that if you guys want to go watch that. Again, I forgot how long it was. It's probably somewhere between 30 and 50 minutes. It's pretty long. But again, it goes over a lot of, redacted and Sinder's side of the story whenever it comes to, Nanoless's situation. So again, just take that into account. But she actually went to her Discord server just recently talking about the situation, saying, hello everyone, I feel like my closest community deserves a bit of information on recent happenings. Now, she actually made a announcement before this, pretty much telling people not to be aggressive or rude to anybody or attack anybody over the situation, which obviously is a good thing to put there. But obviously, yeah, she says, first of all, I'm so sorry for bringing all of this mess to the community. Honestly, it's all on my hands for posting it because I felt it was the right thing to do, mostly to show what was happening on the backstage of things. Back then, there's a lot of spelling mistakes in this, by the way, as well. I said back then, but back then, I really tried to be the people pleaser and didn't know how to say no to a cool project. And I ended up taking too much. I could chew and also keep up with Sinder's projects, which I love to work with. I already worked really hard to keep up with Sinder's rhythm, give her priority, and still wanted to work with new people, which, as you can see, didn't work out well. I cancelled many commissions. I did use Mio with his consent as an excuse to my clients, and Mio is not my manager since it didn't work out, and I actually cut it from him. I do my own management. None of the cancelled commissions were paid up front and communicated months prior to the starting point. The cancelled clients know this, maybe just not Bao. Sorry, I don't remember well, and we have things sorted. So it seems like obviously they have been talking, or they have talked since then to discuss obviously the cancelled models and things like that. I already worked my ass off to please Sinder, and there was a point I thought to myself, why not ask if they want me to be exclusive and if they would pay for it, since I was almost doing so. I revisited the first doc, and I'm sorry, I didn't realize it looks weird, but this was not the whole point. It is about the blacklisting. The exclusivity was paid to me. Obviously, that doesn't really make sense, but obviously, so the exclusivity was paid to me, but I backed out because my friends told me I was stupid by taking it. It was discounted from a commission payment. The offer was through, again, a weird kind of way of putting it, either $3 million or $395,000. I'm not sure, but obviously that is pretty crazy for either way, for rigging and Novel's Horizon Sinder figure for my exclusivity. Thank you, friends. Said, I also want to apologize to the people who have been mentioned with no reason at all on Sinder's doc. I needed help, but didn't think they would be included this way. They have nothing to do with the whole situation, so please don't ever bother them about this. I have learned a lot of things through this whole situation I caused. Sadly, I will still be working as much as I can. That's what I like to do. Saying no to clients still hurts me, but it's something that I'm enduring in respect to them and my own limits. So yeah, that's the response to Nanoless. Now, it's an interesting one to kind of unpick, because obviously it seems like she is agreeing with a lot of what went on in Sinder's kind of document. She's not refuting anything. She's not saying that she's wrong or anything like that. She is saying, like, yes, she was always a people pleaser and things like that. But she also goes on to say things like, for example, she looked back on her doc. She revisited her first doc, and I'm sorry, I did realize it looks weird. So again, obviously, she probably maybe should have put a little bit more thought into that, because again, it seems like Sinder has kind of, I guess, won in this situation, right? In this specific Nanoless one. Now, obviously, she then goes and talks about Bao, Numi, Shylily, Silverveil, Aura, and Spite, and obviously they all have different kind of undertones to them. Obviously, for example, like Shylily's is very about much like saying that she was like the mastermind behind things and she's a liar, and that's what obviously Sinder was saying about her. Nanoless as well was saying that, the part that Sinder wrote about Nanoless, she's also saying that she was lying and that there was a lot that was kind of missing. And then for like people like Bao, she was much more kind of sympathetic and be like, oh, I was her friend and things like that. And the same with Numi as well. Numi was very, very sympathetic, and it was just kind of clearing up a situation. So there's different kind of like, I guess, nuances to each of these different segments. But Nanoless was pretty much breaking down all of the kind of wrong bits of misinformation and things that were included in her original document. And it seems like Nanoless has kind of essentially agreed to it. They've kind of essentially, because they haven't refuted anything here. They haven't said, hey, this is wrong. Cinder's wrong about this, by the way. She's lying about that. No, she's actually gone, oh, yeah, no, I did, I did make it look weird. But this was not the whole point. It is about the blacklisting, she says. So she didn't really like the fact that people were being blacklisted rather than the exclusivity, which obviously could have been worded better. But again, whenever you have an exclusivity deal, it is kind of blacklisting. But I can understand where Nanoless is coming from. I think, obviously she made a better point of it. She was more concerned about the fact that they were kind of targeting, or well, Redacted specifically was targeting like Bao and people like that because of his preconceived notions about Bao and what she was doing. I think that obviously that probably drew some red flags for her, and that was the thing that she really wanted to speak about. The exclusivity deal wasn't so much of a problem because obviously, as they say, it's just a kind of common thing, but I think it was that targeting of certain VTubers, and they were talking about them specifically, was the thing that she's kind of trying to get at here, which again, I do agree, obviously was extremely weird, and Redacted was extremely weird for doing that. Now, obviously, then you need to kind of take into account that, this was in Cinder's document, she says this was, pretty much all redacted, and she didn't really have a clue about what was really going on. And it's interesting, it's definitely interesting because it seems like obviously Redacted has been a pretty big part in all of this mess and has caused most of it, to be honest, in terms of the way he worded things and the way he tried to single out a lot of VTubers, including obviously Bao and people like that, which is the point that Nanoless was trying to get at. But with her document, she made it seem like the exclusivity was also the big deal as well, which obviously should have been communicated beforehand. But it seems like obviously, she's not going to be making some big massive response or anything. But that is the response that she has had over on her Discord, which I do think is interesting, and obviously in regards to like Redacted as well, I think a lot of people have had some red flags, especially with the first part of the like apology and taking account the Redacted bit. They're saying like Red and I are still together and that he's still going to be continuing to work as her like manager, type person, right? Which again, I do think it's pretty interesting because obviously there's a lot of red flags there whenever it comes to Redacted. He messed up a lot, and I don't even know how the hell he managed to, continue where he's at, right? He must have had a very good apology and reasoning, because it does seem like a lot of it was due to him. I know a lot of people initially with the initial apology, right? It did seem like she was laying it on him and trying to kind of blame it and push it onto him, right? But I think in actual fact, after looking through a lot of the kind of evidence and looking through what Sinder has put out, it seems like he literally did do quite a lot of the stuff that people are mad at Sinder for, which is very interesting. But again, obviously Sinder still messed up in other cases as well, for example, like being a bad friend to Numi and stuff like that. But obviously for a lot of the more heinous stuff, it seems like obviously Redacted was the one that was more so kind of responsible. But then also you bring into the factors of like, this is Cinder's manager, or this is, someone, obviously they are in a relationship, and surely she should have had a little bit more control over what was going on and understanding over what was going on. I understand that, you should trust each other and things, but still, it was still her responsibility to make sure that nothing like this was going on at the same time. So again, I can understand both arguments behind all of this, but I do think it is interesting. This response is interesting. And obviously, I don't know if we'll see any other responses from anybody else mentioned in here, like a shylily, like literally anybody else. So again, obviously, I'll keep you guys up to date. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to like butt this in here in between a lot of the kind of, obviously we've been covering this document for a while. We've pretty much, covered a lot of the meat of it. Again, with Nanoless, Bao, Numi and Shylily and the breakdown, which was the main like meat of like what was really bad. And then obviously we still got Silverveil, Spite, and Auri to go. I've already recorded Auri, which will come out tomorrow. So again, it is pretty interesting, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys the update because it did literally drop not so long ago. So yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, go to GameSubs, use my code Kaza, get 10% off again. They've got a ton of really cool stuff over there. Definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. That's all. See ya.